Hey folks, thanks for tuning in again. This is going to be a quick product review video about the CPB CP300. Now what this is a heating pad. It's not much to look at. You got a little foam pad, controller box, power goes in, you set a temperature and a timer if you want. A whole bunch of wires run through here, makes it hot. Now what I got this for is to start working on iPhones and iPads. There's a big demand, screen replacements, battery replacements, and I haven't really worked on iPhones since 6S maybe, before they got all this waterproofing adhesive that's a real bitch to get off. So I got this. If you lay it on here for a couple of minutes, it'll loosen the adhesive so the screen comes off easier. This is the first time I got a heating pad, and I unboxed it about an hour ago, 2 hours ago, I don't know, sometime this afternoon, and did a test. I plug it in. You have two presets, phone and tablet. The phone preset is 75 degrees Celsius. This is all in Celsius, by the way. I don't speak Fahrenheit. And the tablet preset is 90 degrees Celsius. So I plug it in, turn it on, put it on phone mode, and it starts heating up. And I immediately noticed, I could tell, I work with heat every day with heat guns, soldering irons. I have a pretty good sense of temperature, that this absolutely got way hotter than the preset temperature, even while it was still heating up. So I took out my thermal camera, and to my surprise, where this thing was saying 75 degrees Celsius, the thermal camera showed me 142 degrees Celsius. You don't need to be a math whiz to realize that's a lot higher than it should be. So did a few more tests, tablet mode, phone mode, set the temperature, and there's no fixed number about how far it's off. I set it to 30 Celsius and it heated up to 95 Celsius. Got up to temperature, it thought, the internal sensor is messed up in this thing. It thought it was 30, it was at 95. So it switched off, started cooling down. It cooled off to about 80 degrees, and then the sensor thought that it was way too cold, so it turned it on again. It heated it up to 120. Now when it's set to 30, 120 is not what you want. So I did this a bunch of times, and it's just all over the place. Sometimes there's a 40 degrees Celsius difference, sometimes close to 100 degrees Celsius difference. So since this is cheap, I think I paid 60, 70 for it. It's cheap, it looks pretty, it has a big LCD screen, easy to read out what's going on, and it's small. For phones, this is all I need. Can't show you right now because I'm recording on my phone, but phones, iPad minis, this is fine. So I wanted to make a quick review video, and I'm going to switch to my Logitech webcam in a minute because I'm going to use my phone for the thermal camera. So picture might be a little shitty. Just to show you that I'm not making this up, and hopefully it'll help someone in the future, because if you buy one of these, the instructions, by the way, are basic, very basic. How to set the temperature, how to set the timer, that's it. So you buy one of these, you get all excited, you turn it on, ooh, it gets hot. That's what it's supposed to do. It's a hot pad, or a heat pad, or repair pad, or what do they call it? Heat plate. It's not a plate, but who cares? You put your phone on there for 5 or 8 minutes, depending on the temperature. You come back, and sure enough, the glue will be loose enough for you to take the glass off, but that phone or tablet or whatever you put on there will have been exposed to a lot higher temperature than what you thought, which of course can be bad for the LCD. It can be bad for the battery. It can be bad for a whole bunch of internal components. You don't, typically for a phone, you don't want to go over 60 degrees Celsius. For a tablet, you don't want to go over 80 degrees Celsius. And that's just for, I think, up to 7 or 8 minutes. So if it keeps cycling on and off with a different temperature every time, you will expose it to much higher temperatures for far longer than you probably want. So, quick review. I'm already at 6 minutes. You know by now I don't do quick. I'm gonna record the heating up. I'm gonna record it on my phone with the thermal camera, do a little time lapse, see if it stabilizes after a few minutes, see if it burns my house down after a few minutes, and then toss it on YouTube, see who it can benefit. So, let's get started. Okay. We got a webcam, unfortunately also audio through this webcam because my phone is in use, and like I said, I want to make this quick, so no external microphone hooked up or anything like that. I also have my phone with a thermal camera on it. Yep, I do. If you hear a clicking like that, that is the thermal camera. It's constantly recalibrating, make sure that it's reading the right temperature. A little annoying, but it's not really meant for this kind of application. So, I'm gonna plug this pad in. We're gonna turn it on. And we're gonna set it to, let's do phone mode first. Hold on. Phone mode. And we're gonna set it to 65. So it's starting to heat up now. The pad thinks we're at 33. And we're actually at 63. We're about to hit 40 degrees Celsius, and the pad is coming up on 80. That's almost double. So we're gonna let this go for a second. We're basically at double the temperature the pad is giving us. We see that little blinking down at the bottom, that means it's heating. So it's not even done yet, and we're already at 118 degrees Celsius. Now it's up to temperature. Pad is going to turn off, and it's going to slowly start to cool down. It overshot the temperature by a few degrees. It's now 70, 5 degrees more than I set it to. Still climbing, which is no surprise, of course, since the pad is a good 30 degrees hotter. Pad is starting to cool down. Sensor is picking up on it. So it has to dip down to 64 and the pad will kick on again. So let's wait for that to happen. Alright, just kicked on again. It only has to warm it by 1 degree, and it already shot up 5 degrees, 6 degrees, 7 degrees. And we're back up to a 98 degrees Celsius, and it turned off again. So it's cooler than it was before, but still way too hot. When you're dealing with, well, any kind of heat or temperature device, whether it's an air conditioning or a heat pad, you want the thermostat to be accurate. In this case, it clearly is not. But we're going to give it a few minutes, let it run a few cycles, see if it stabilizes. So far, when it bottoms out, it is 6 degrees too hot. At the end of the warm-up cycle, it is almost 30 to 40 degrees too hot. And mind you, when this thing is on, it easily uses 250 watts. So keep that in mind as well. If you're going to rely on this kind of equipment, it's not cheap to run. Now, of course, if you're a business, you'll make that money back. It's the device itself is a tax write-off. The energy used for your business is a write-off, etc., etc. But still something to keep in mind. All right, we're back at 70 degrees Celsius on the thermal camera. It's about to kick on again. This time it dipped down to 68, 67, and it kicked in again. We're using 200 watts right now, 180, 190, and back down to half a watt. So I can let this run for hours, which I'm not going to do. As you can see, and I'll put my hand in here just so you can see that I'm not making this up or not synchronizing it right. This is the actual performance that you're looking at. Now let's find something to put on that pad to see how much heat an object draws away from that pad. And we're coming up on 100 degrees again. Almost 100. Okay, let's take this off. Ow. Hot. Not bad. I've seen a few pads where you put an object there and it just is unable to get any heat through. It gets sucked away from the pad right away. So this is not bad. But I've made the point that I wanted to make. The temperature you set is 65. The pad never comes under 70. Barely comes under 70 when it bottoms out. When this thinks it's 64, this is at 70 or around 70. I'll remove my hand so the focus stops freaking out. To go 1 degree on the LCD means you go 30 degrees on the pad. The heat up, just that 1 degree it tries to gain, you gain 30. Now it's not a lot, although at the top it will boil water if you leave it there long enough. 100 degrees Celsius is where you boil water. That's not where you put in a phone or an iPad or any kind of phone or tablet. When the thermostat is this unreliable, you do not want to trust your own, or more importantly, your customers' electronics with this. Alright, that's just the point I wanted to make. Now this has a tablet mode as well, which is pre-configured at 90 degrees Celsius. I tried it really quickly and it got way too hot, and I don't want to burn my house down, so I'm not going to demonstrate that here. But yeah, one other thing to note is that there are no regulation or regulatory markings on this thing anywhere. And I think, nope, not even on the box. Not on the manual, although they ask you to recycle the manual. It has markings for that. Let's see if I can get this back in position. There you go. So that little CE symbol that you got on electronics. Let me see if I can find an example. Well, just to illustrate, I don't know if I can get this in focus. See down there at the bottom? The FC, ROHS, those regulatory markings. This has none of that. The device doesn't have it, the pad doesn't have it, the box doesn't have it, the manual doesn't have it. Of course, I don't have to tell you where this came from. This came from a country that's currently very popular in the media. So, you know, no regulations or any of that. Which makes the smell that comes off of this thing all the more uncomfortable. You don't know what's in this pad. You don't know what's in there. You do not know what's in this pad. Or what kind of toxins this is off-gassing as it reaches way higher temperatures than you set it to. So, also something to keep in mind. All in all, I think I've said everything that needed to be said. I will return this. Or actually, I might keep it as a board preheater. You know, if I'm working on a logic board and I'm about to remove a very large chip, maybe I can use it as a board preheater. Might do that, but I'd still be worried that it burns my house down, so I probably won't. I'll be sending this back, more than likely, and looking for something else. And when I find a good product, of course there aren't a lot of options out there. They're not going to be as pretty as this one, with a nice LCD on it, and touch buttons and all that. I just need the temperature to be reliable, accurate, and consistent, which this is not. So, this was the CPB CP300. Let me get that in frame. You can find it on Amazon for 60-70 bucks. I would recommend you look for something else. Because if you damage the LCD from one of your customers' devices, if it gets... The next one might have way bigger discrepancies than this one here. You might set this to 50, it might become 150. You don't know, because unless you have a thermal camera, you can't test it. So, you know, batteries can only take so much heat, LCDs can only take so much heat, internal components can only take so much heat. So, I would stay away from this one, look elsewhere, or well, you might still look on Amazon, but look for another product. The one I'm currently looking at is the cheaper and way uglier version, which is $60. I'll do a video on that as well. But yeah, CPB CP300, I give it a thumbs down. So, hope this was helpful to you. I'm gonna go edit this together and hope that the audio is any good. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.